The public imagination is fixated on the wrong vector: hypersonic missiles, carrier strike groups. This is a deliberate misdirection. The first strike in the next systemic conflict will not be an explosion. It will be silence. The global order, its financial markets, and its military command systems run on a network of undersea fiber optic cables. According to RUSI, these cables carry over 97% of all global data and $10 trillion in financial transactions daily. They are the exposed nervous system of the hegemon. This physical vector is paired with a non-kinetic one: satellite blinding. CSIS reports detailed adversary capabilities in directed energy weapons and co-orbital anti-satellite systems. The objective is not to destroy, but to induce informational paralysis, to sever the eyes from the brain. This is the protocol of asymmetric escalation. While analysts focus on Chinese anti-Taiwan messaging or the risk of global catastrophe, the real attack vector targets the foundational infrastructure of power. It is a low kinetic cost method to achieve strategic gridlock and induce a solvency crisis. The central question is not why start a war, but why start a war you cannot win symmetrically. The motive is not territorial ambition, it is systemic desperation. The conflict in Ukraine must be reframed as a symptom of a terminal domestic solvency crisis. CSIS analysis confirms the war is a mandatory response to this internal crisis. The immense financial drain and political liability of a protracted, unpopular conflict created a zero-sum choice for the state's leadership: face a certain and humiliating domestic collapse or execute a high-risk external pivot. This is the core of the asymmetric escalation protocol. When a state's solvency is compromised, it is mathematically forced to abandon symmetric competition. It cannot outproduce or outspend the hegemon. Its only remaining vector is to attack the integrity of the system itself. It attacks liabilities, over-leveraged financial markets referenced by analysts at finance magnates, and sensitive geopolitical tripwires like Taiwan, which scholars warn is already a target of information warfare. Weakness forces a pivot. The war is simply an instrument to externalize a domestic bankruptcy, compelling the West to liquidate its own reserves in a costly strategic reaction. The core of the asymmetric protocol is economic. According to analysis from RUSI, the Royal United Services Institute, the kinetic cost exchange is terminally broken. A challenger state, or even a non-state actor, can deploy a $500 first-person view drone to neutralize a $5 million main battle tank. This is not a one-to-one exchange. It is a 10,000 to 1 leverage ratio against the hegemon's capital assets. Every expensive platform, from aircraft carriers to advanced fighters, is now a financial liability on a battlefield where lethality is cheap. This is the democratization of violence. The state's monopoly on high-end kinetic force has been breached by commercially available technology. It enables a strategy of attrition that attacks an opponent's industrial base and financial solvency, not just their military units. The objective is not to win on the battlefield, but to make the cost of projecting power so prohibitively expensive that the hegemon is forced into a solvency crisis, effectively bankrupting its ability to police the global order. This economic bleed forces a strategic recalculation. When your precision assets are being liquidated at a catastrophic loss ratio, precision itself becomes a failed doctrine. The response vector shifts from surgical strikes to systemic punishment. The protocol dictates that if a superpower cannot afford to win a war of attrition, it must escalate to a level where the cost exchange becomes irrelevant, overwhelming force that removes the entire system of asymmetric threats from the board. Economic weakness does not merely invite conflict, it mathematically guarantees an escalation to the one vector where supremacy remains absolute: overwhelming kinetic output. When the ledger shows you are going bankrupt, the only remaining option to rebalance the books is a launch on warning posture. This is not a bug in the system. It is the final, logical feature of a declining world order. The instability you are being shown is not the disease. It is the diagnostic. Nations like Canada issuing unprecedented warnings about internal security or the systemic decay observed in states like South Africa are not isolated crises. They are designated gray zones, proxy laboratories for a new vector of warfare. While legacy media focuses on the surface-level chaos, the protocol is being executed underneath. Challenger states are using these zones to test the West's breaking points. They are stress-testing social cohesion, supply chain resilience, and political response times at a low kinetic cost. This is a blueprint for asymmetric escalation. As CSIS reports confirm, the goal is to map the hegemon's liabilities. They probe financial solvency through resource warfare, evidenced by China's curbs on critical materials like silver, engineering supply squeezes to gauge the reaction. Source: Draw 2. Simultaneously, they activate geopolitical tripwires, using information campaigns to destabilize flashpoints like Taiwan. Source: Number 4. These gray zone operations are data collection for a future, decisive strike. They measure how much economic pain or political pressure is required before the system defaults to its only remaining leverage, kinetic force. The objective is not to win in the lab. It is to collect the data needed to force a premature, catastrophic escalation from a weakened superpower. Analysts warn that a global order change is mathematically probable under these conditions, with some projecting a systemic fracture as early as 2026. Source number 1. The risk is not chaos. It is the precision of the protocol. The findings from these proxy labs will be used to trigger a crisis so profound that the hegemon is faced with a zero-sum choice. Accept systemic collapse or initiate a launch-on-warning response to re-establish dominance. The launch-on-warning doctrine is not a choice. It is a protocol, a mathematical response to the immutable physics of ICBM flight times. From detection to impact is under 30 minutes. The decision window to execute a retaliatory strike before your own command structure and arsenal are liquidated is not hours. It is a handful of minutes. This is a pre-programmed systemic response to a zero-sum timing problem. Now, introduce the asymmetric vector. A challenger state does not need to achieve missile parity. They only need to blind the system. Analysts at CSS have modeled this scenario: a targeted cyber attack on the space-based infrared system or the ground-based PAVE-PAWS radar network. This is the fog of digital war. The commander in the bunker now sees only black screens. The data feed is severed. The protocol, however, is still active. The critical question is no longer, are we under attack? The question becomes, is the silence itself the attack? Waiting for confirmation is a luxury the 30-minute timeline does not afford. Hesitation risks total decapitation. This forces the dilemma. By attacking the information layer, the adversary weaponizes the protocol against its owner. The commander is forced to choose between launching on a potential ghost signal, risking a global catastrophe, or betting the nation's existence that it's a technical glitch. The system is designed to escalate under uncertainty. The kinetic cost becomes the only available response when the digital eyes are gouged out. The calibration event will not be a military strike. It will be a systemic interruption designed for plausible deniability. Within the next 12 months, anticipate a significant multi-hour outage targeting a critical financial data corridor, such as the Marea or Amitié submarine communications cables. The official attribution will cite a deep-sea seismic event or a commercial vessel anchor drag. As RU-SI reports confirm, the objective is not overt destruction, but a stress test. It is a launch-on-warning drill for economic warfare, designed to measure the lag time between a data blackout and the hegemon's emergency liquidity injection. They are not testing firepower. They are calculating the kinetic cost of a full-spectrum solvency crisis.